Hi, everyone. I'm Osinachi. I'm a visual artist based in Lagos, Nigeria. My journey in visual art started over 15 years ago when my father introduced me to the computer. But my first love in the arts was literature. As a teenager, I read so much that I started writing on my own. I had badly written poetry and short stories that I wanted the world to see. I wanted to send out to literary magazines across the world. So when my father took me to the cyber cafe for the first time and opened my first email, it was only natural that I would go into the internet looking for literary magazines to send these badly written poetry and short stories. I would type on Microsoft Word. Sometimes I would get bored. And when I got bored, I would play around with the drawing tools on Microsoft Word. This was how I discovered my love for drawing on the computer, because I wanted to create visual interpretations of what my short stories and poetry were about and send them out to literary magazines. I remember that the first few things that I created were popular logos that I had known growing up as a child. For example, I created the logo of our national television, Nigerian Television Authority. From there, I started creating abstract pieces on Microsoft Word. While all of this was happening, I did not know that I was probably the only person in the world who was creating art using Microsoft Word. It went on through my secondary school until my university days. When I got done with university education in 2014, I decided to pay more attention to visual art. Now, this is coming from someone who had never been to an art gallery while growing up as a child. It was only in the university that I had the privilege to visit exhibitions and see artworks created by other people. But before then, during my days of so much reading, I was seeing art on books. I remember coming in contact with a certain book about art history where they talked about the Renaissance and talked about the masters and the rest of them. And I was so taken by the artworks I was seeing on these books. These artworks, looking back at them, really formed the foundation of what my practice has turned out to be. When I went for my compulsory National Youth Service in 2015, the question was always bugging me, what would I do with my life after this very program? Because what was expected is that after your National Youth Service, you would go and start up work somewhere. At this moment, while panicking, I was already sending out hundreds of emails to art galleries and other players in the traditional art space. Few of them replied, and those who replied actually said no. No, not because they didn't like my work, but because there were issues around digital art. Issues around provenance, proof of ownership, proof of scarcity, and the rest of them. It was in late 2017, through a Google alert, that I found out about art on the blockchain. I had set up this Google alert for digital art and visual art because I was looking for opportunities in the art space. And when this discovery came to me, that there was something about art on the blockchain, I decided to look into it. This was how I discovered NFTs in late 2017 and went into it in 2018. The first platform where I put out my work was Rare Art, which is now defunct. From Rare Art, I discovered other marketplaces that were emerging at the time, such as Portion, Super Rare, Maker's Place, and the rest of them. It wasn't until late 2019 that things really kicked off in the NFT space, and we're seeing the boom that everyone is talking about today. This boom enabled me to start doing art full-time, having resigned my job as an academic librarian at the University of Nigeria. As other early players in the NFT space, I had the vision of a more decentralized world, a world where artists could succeed without needing a middleman. And this worked out well for us. Most of the people who we regard today as crypto art OGs like myself were actually collectors of other artists' work in the early days. This was artists supporting artists in their own way, no matter how much little money they were making in the space. Blockchain technology gave us what we've always dreamed of as artists in the world. It's made digital art stand shoulder to shoulder with its traditional counterparts. On the blockchain, there is provenance. On the blockchain, there is proof of ownership. On the blockchain, there is proof of scarcity. So digital art has become valuable. Now let me go back to the early days when I was looking for opportunities in the traditional art space. I remember sending out emails to galleries and I got a few replies. One reply in particular said, "What does he mean by he makes work on Microsoft Word?" Obviously, I wasn't supposed to see this reply. This was supposed to be an in-house email, but I did see it and I wasn't pleased. So I replied saying I used the drawing tools on Microsoft Word to create my art. Now, these were days when, as a digital artist, I was looking for the validation of people in the traditional art space. But that has changed. Because of NFTs, I'm able to collaborate with galleries across the world without leaving my country. I'm able to collaborate with auction houses without leaving my country if I don't want to. I am proud to say that I'm a digital artist. I am proud to say that I am sure of getting my royalties whenever my work sells in the secondary market. These are some of the ways that NFTs have changed my life as an artist. As an artist, experimentation is very much a part of my practice. I like to try out new things. And fortunately enough, the NFT space is filled with innovators, people who are creating marketplaces like a sync art, which allows you to create what is called programmable art. While you're working, while you are creating, you are also having fun. Same goes for collectors who buy your work. In the process of buying and in the process of owning your work, they can also have fun and create new things along the way. It's not just about relationships, it's also about new ways of seeing the world. A few months back, I launched my PFP project known as Across the Face in collaboration with Sync Art and Super Rare. Now, without what we're doing in the NFT space, I wouldn't have thought this possible to be able to create something that people can make derivatives out of, up to 1,000 editions of these PFPs owned by different people across the world, each unique in itself, building a community around my work of people across the world. Yes, I am the first African artist in the NFT space, but my story is only one among so many of African artists in the space. The NFT space has offered African artists a platform to tell their stories without having to go knocking on any door to be let in. They can tell their stories without fear. They can tell their stories without prejudice. They can make the kind of art they want to make without thinking whether it would sell or not. Because through what the space offers, they don't need a middleman to be able to push their story to be seen. Before now, digital artists like myself have had to rely on commissions to be able to survive. But today, commissions have only become an option for digital artists in terms of their survival means. Now, the fact that digital artists are flying in the NFT space without needing a middleman does not mean that the traditional art players we've known since time immemorial are no longer useful in the space. I mean, a digital artist can also collaborate with a gallery if they want to. A digital artist in the NFT space can collaborate with an auction house if they want to. But certainly how I see it is that the middlemen that we've known before in the traditional art space now have other roles to play in the NFT space. For example, they have the role of education. They can educate collectors in the traditional art space, tell them about the NFT space, and in fact, help them collect NFTs on their behalf. This is one role that they need to play in order to bring more people into the NFT space. While educating collectors in the traditional art space who have trusted them for years, they are also educating the general populace, some of whom wrongly see NFTs as a Ponzi scheme. Now, what is my vision of the NFT space, say 5 or 10 years from now? I see a space that is getting closer and closer to the decentralization target. I always say that decentralization is not a destination, it is a journey, and we are all on this journey together in the NFT space. I also see a space where NFT artists collaborate seamlessly with players in the traditional art space in order to put art out into our world, because honestly, our world needs more art. I also see more and more conversations around innovations in the NFT space. Innovations that can help African artists like myself tell our stories even more. Innovations that can help artists be spotlighted. Innovations that can also help quiet down the noise that we've seen in the NFT space in recent times, so that people can talk more about the art and less about the money. Thank you.